Well, hello everybody. In that case,
Hello.
hey, how are we all doing? Excellent. Where are you all beaming in from? I'm London, UK. Frank, where are you today? Because you're beaming in all over the world all the time.
Yeah, not London, UK this time. In Vilnius, in Lithuania. So, but depends on where you catch me. So,
Yeah, exactly. Any given day, you can be on three different continents and five different countries. So we're
yes.
going to hang out just for a few minutes whilst chat disabled? I think oh God, it's one of those things, isn't it, where Zoom goes, oh well, if you didn't set it up beforehand. Um, but there
Mm.
is obviously data at this point. Well, just put it in the Q&A in that case. Let's do that. Can we enable chat? Angela, will you see if we can enable chat? I might need to log into
Let me just check.
my Zoom to do that. But we had about 700 people register on LinkedIn, so we're going to see when those folks realize they've actually got to go and get the link to pitch up here. But we can see lots of people being added every moment, another few people coming in.
Mm.
So put in the Q&A. Great to see you too, Damien. And yes, the joys of a webinar. I always say live demos, children and animals. These are the things that we do not want to do.
Yeah, we just have a lot of people also on LinkedIn trying to get in because they didn't sign up. So we can wait for a few minutes and then we can kick off. And I'm sure we have gonna have plenty of stranglers in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Already people
Go
going,
ahead.
is there a recording? So what
Mm.
I'm going to also do, uh, then if we can share this Google document, because this is a workaround that I remember doing ages ago. Uh, so people can ask questions and put comments in if they want to. So here's the chat,
Mm.
everyone. So if you can see if it is disabled and you can't get into the chat, there's a Google document there, which you should be able to put questions in and we'll be able to answer. And you can put in there where you're beaming in from. Where are you guys beaming in from? Now you're in the Google document. I see you all flooding in, you anonymous hamsters and armadillos. London, Weymouth, fantastic. We do like the UK. Scotland, brilliant. So is anyone not on the British Isles? We've got some people. California, fantastic. You're going to be a multinational. Love that the Aussie is an anonymous platypus. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, folks. Sarah, you're in twice, Piddy. How did you get in here twice? Oh, look, Stephen's come to see if I'm behaving myself. Excellent. Brilliant. All right, we're 3 minutes past. Scotland, Bracknell, come on, Norway, brilliant. I've just got back from Norway. I've actually got from Myrkdalen a nice little black eye from a wipeout because I on Sunday morning from skiing in Norway. I'd never been there before. What an amazing country that
Whereabouts in
is.
Norway did you go?
Myrkdalen.
Ah, how do you
I
fly
don't-
in? Through
Flew
which?
into Bergen and
Oh,
then it was
Bergen.
a two hour coach ride.
Mm.
I went out with one of my business groups. There was 20 of us, and we had the most amazing time. And I did not stick to my diet. You're in there twice. Oh, that's Sarah. You're in there twice. Bippers in Norway. Indeed, that's
Yeah.
who I was with. Steve Ford and another Bipper I can see in the room as well. Welcome, welcome. I can see this Google document's going to get well out of control. So, who's here for cold email outreach? Who's here for LinkedIn? And who's here for both? And having success or not success with it? Both. Yes. Now we do, yes. Yeah, LinkedIn. Thing about LinkedIn is the creepiness of the cold outreach, isn't it, really, Frank?
Why is that?
I find that it's like you
LinkedIn
get
actually
the people.
performs much better than email because a lot of folks have a lot of fatigue with email. So that's
Yeah.
because a lot of companies have automated a bunch of things on email, but actually automating LinkedIn is really really tough, which is why there's a lot less fatigue. on LinkedIn. Plus, the other reason why naturally folks respond on LinkedIn is because there's a face, right? So you can see a person, you can see a beautiful smile, whatever, you can see a little banner or whatever, all these. So I always say the LinkedIn profile is the extension of your site. So this is why people are just more likely to respond. Whereas, when you get an email from somebody, you're like, who is that, right? Because you're only seeing the email, and you're typically nobody. Like honestly, like it's not like big companies like Google will be reaching out to you typically, unless they're asking for unless they unless they're coming after you to pay for the bill, for the Google ads.
Yeah, yeah, good point. I mean, the thing that I find about LinkedIn, I mean, the email thing is important because of protecting your email reputation. I know you're going to come on to that. Hey, Lawrence. And then there's going to be the whole LinkedIn thing of like connecting with someone and then the immediate, what I call the pitch slap of people selling to you straight away. And that's kind of where it falls down as well. And I know that we'll be covering a bit of that off. I think we should start, Frank, at
Yeah.
6 minutes past. What do you reckon?
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Let's do a
who's
quick
going
intro.
we could do the intro. You want to
Yes.
go first? You do you. Everybody, this is
Sure.
Frank. Frank, you do your intro.
Yeah, sure. So hello everybody. So if somebody doesn't know who in the audience I am, I'm Frank Saunders. I run a company called Salesforge, not the Force. Don't force yourself. So Forge the outreach is what we're doing. We're forging a lot of outreach. We've been around for about 3 years. And prior to Salesforge, I used to be in sales, software sales, selling a bunch of different softwares. And then I thought to myself, at the end, I've been, running a sales team of about 50 people, doing a lot of cold calls, emails, LinkedIn, you name it. And I thought there's a better way to do sales. Generally speaking, do a lot more sort of output, but with the least headcount possible, which is what I thought to myself, because back in the days, the main sort of lever was to hire more people, and more people meant more pipeline, more revenue. But these days, with everything that's happening on the AI front, whether that's in Salesforge, HighLevel, or any other platforms, you're able to achieve significantly better or higher output levels, but with very little headcount. So it's a very exciting times to be alive. And yeah, we'll ultimately help companies to be just leaner and meaner when it comes to outreach, and doing much better outreach today than back in the days when everybody used to send just a bunch of templates. So yeah.
Well, and this goes hand in glove with what we do, and I've been doing for the last 15 years, which is the design and build of automated customer journeys. So I've been a serial entrepreneur for, I think it's about 35 years now, which is the point at which you go, but you don't look old enough. And I've been through many iterations of who I am in business, and now I've settled into this for the last 15 years. And what we find is that the journey through the customer journey is often very jacked up in that people are kind of building things and they're falling over. So we've spent the last, since 2011, doing what we're doing now and streamlining as technology has moved on. When we started doing it in 2011, there really wasn't a lot of automation going on in the world, and people didn't even want automated responders to things like calendar emails because they didn't want to go, oh no, I don't want to be look robotic. And now look, we've completely gone the other way
Yeah.
with AI even doing phone calls for us. We consider automation a way to clear the space to have a human experience in the customer journey. So we've been refining this as technology's moved on, new things have come to the fore, and creating time and money for our clients. Because if we can automate something that takes you 5 minutes, but we, do it 12 times a day, you've got an hour back. Times that by 5 times a week, 20, 26, 20 month. I can't even get my words out today. 5 hours a week times 4 weeks a month across the year is an enormous amount of snowball saving of time. So, in fact, why don't I just go into the presentation? That might be uh, better to explain what we do. So, I'm going to share my screen, Frank, if you're good with that. Or do you want to
Yes,
share your?
please.
Okay.
No, go for it.
Okay. So, there we go. So, this is, can everyone see my screen okay? If you can't, then
Yeah, I can
Angeli
see your
or
screen.
Frank
All
needs to
good.
tell me. So basically
Mhm.
what we do is we're looking today at the outreach and being able to get replies. So many people spend so much time getting emails out there and they're not replying to them, or stuffing people in the top of their funnel, but not actually having the right conversation with the right people at the right time because they don't have a system to underpin it. And that's kind of what we do. We build scalable systems to make sure that people don't fall through the gaps, to make sure that everybody's being responded to with the right message at the right time. You've spent all this time doing copy of sending emails out or sending messaging out and getting people in, and simply people reply and it's not adding up to the revenue that you deserve in your business. So we split a customer journey down into three key phases. One, which is the prospecting, of getting people's attention, of making sure that we're capturing them and then nurturing them so that they like, know, and trust you. It's what I was saying about the pitch stat, Frank, which is like, if you go in too hard, too early with an offer, then it can kind of scare people off because they haven't learned enough about you. So then we move into being able to nurture them, to engage them in the sales process and make that offer. We often find people don't even have a sales process, because it's very different if you're an e-commerce business
Yeah.
versus an info business versus a coaching business. It's a very different, not putting it in the basket and checking out. No, it's high ticket. They need to be more nurtured during the sales process, have more information. Maybe there's payment plans and things involved. And then the very important thing for us, as part of that, is making sure they have a great onboarding. The fulfillment process. There's nothing worse than spending your money with someone, then going, oh, buyer's remorse. That was a big mistake. I'm not getting what I thought I was getting, which then leads into creating amazing fans where people are referring you on, they're giving you reviews, they're giving you case studies. So it's this whole kind of three-phased approach to the business, which we then break down into different stages. Looks like it's cut it off a bit on the left there. So what we do is we break that down. I might have to do it this way. There we are. Show it. There we are. So we break it down into these these stages that basically allow you to, like, who and where are you targeting people? What are you doing to attract their attention, capture and nurture them, engage them to queue up the offer? And when you build out the, don't know if I wanted to do that. There we go. Live presentations, what's not to like? When you see your own customer journey mapped out in this way, you then start to see the gaps of where people are falling out, where you've got people coming in like the outreach thing and they're replying, but you're not following up with them, and therefore you've got, they're just falling out, and you go, oh, I need more business, I must get more customers, whereas actually they're already sitting inside of your system just waiting to be nurtured into the sales process. And this is a big gap that we're going to be covering off today with that. Then we've got making sure that people can actually part with their money. The amount of people that cause friction inside of their sales process is astonishing sometimes. So working through the different stages of the customer journey is what we do day by day with each of our customers and with each of the systems we build. Now, one of the things that we find with HighLevel is that we tend to have a lot of different tools. I call it like the Lego principle. If you imagine when you get a box of Lego, you look at the picture on the box, that's your customer journey, and then the tools that you're going to need to deliver that customer journey, and then how you're going to put those tools together so that they aren't colliding and people aren't getting over communicated with, and that everybody in your fulfillment process knows what's going on as well. Often what happens is, especially with systems like HighLevel, is you get people coming in and kind of building what we call Jenga towers. It's, oh, let me just stick this bit on there, or I need to stick something else on there. And the minute that you want to change something, it's either 5 hours of your time trying to work out what someone was smoking when they built the damn thing, or you have to tear it all down and rebuild it. So it's really that building systems is very different from building what HighLevel calls snapshots. So it's interesting to consider that when looking at your customer journey in that way that I just showed you. So the other things that we're always looking at when we're building our customer journeys is at every stage is, what is the contact's intention here? What is it that you're hoping that they're going to do? What might slow them down? What's the friction? What action can we get them to take right now? And what could possibly go wrong? What happens if they take a detour? What happens if they don't click on that link? What happens if they don't turn up to that webinar? What action have you got something in place like an error handler or a follow-up to capture them so they don't fall out? And what are the opportunities and consequences at each of these stages as well? This creates a really robust customer journey where you're really maximizing the value of every contact that is flowing through your business. So here we are, more pretty pictures. You don't build a Lego model just by tipping it out and getting all the pieces and starting to build something. Having a structured, strategized customer journey means that automatically things are happening, whether it's internal processes or whether it's stuff that you want the contact to do and know where they're at in the journey. And then your revenue starts to become consistent. The boom and bust cycle that businesses go through of like, oh, must do marketing to get business. And then it's like, oh no, I've got to fulfill against it. Marketing's going to have to go on hold. And before you know it, it's just this kind of roller coaster ride of going through your business, of never actually being able to scale it properly because the underpinning infrastructure just simply isn't in place for it. So, what we're going to cover today, and Frank's going to take over, is talking about how every message has a destination, every reply and response is in place, and having conversations defined across your customer journey.
Yep.
So I think that's the end of it. Yes.
Yeah.
You see my phone.
Yeah, if somebody had any questions, feel free to leave them in the doc. I think, Lisa, if you can share the doc again, because I think the people that came a bit later, they I don't think they see the doc. So if you can share that again,
Yeah, of
that'd be great.
course. Okay.
So yeah, if you have any questions, guys, feel free to leave them in the doc. So I think as I'm going to be sharing now on my screen, for the second part and the specifically around outreach, feel free, whatever you're going to see, leave the questions, and then we'll tackle them either as we go through, or we'll tackle them at the end. So let me share my screen. Um, bum, bum. All right, so we're gonna start kind of with very much the basics. So naturally, we're focusing on outreach. So outreach specifically, if you look at any business, so typically I structure the business sort of in three funnels. One is what's called the inbound funnel, meaning we're driving traffic in many different ways, SEO, paid, and stuff like that. Then there's the outbound side of things. This is what we're gonna cover right now. And then I always typically say there's also the channel sales, essentially indirect sales, essentially also that happens in the business. Some businesses have that, some businesses doesn't have that. HighLevel, for example, has a huge indirect sales business, as an example. In our case, for example, we have the three sides of our business. We have the inbound business as well. We have the outbound business, and we have the also indirect sales as a business. But like in outbound in particular, if somebody's asking me, does outreach actually make sense? So I want to cover this, the simple stuff first, and then we're gonna dive into the juicy parts. So the typical answer is yes. If you have a product or a service that you have built, designed, or you just use Claude Code or whatever else it is that you're using these days, and you've built something that solves a particular pain point. There's a lot of people out there. We're talking about a lot, like thousands of, hundreds of thousands of potential people out there that could use your product for that pain point to be solved. Then yes, like you should be reaching out, because arguably reaching out to people and being able to pinpoint that ideal customer profile that you're going after is relatively straightforward, and it's very cost effective for you to do, rather than doing sort of SEO or paid marketing where you're not really sure whether the ICP is gonna click on your ad, or whether the ICP is gonna click on your the listing in Google search. So like, let's say if we're selling, HR software, we decided to build that today. So naturally we can find a bunch of HR directors out there on LinkedIn and reach out to them, right? So we can slice it, segment it the market, by, SMB, mid-market, etc., right? So, and same with cybersecurity or any other really services, right? So as long as you can clearly say, okay, for this product that I have built, I can find a segment relatively easily. Either that's on LinkedIn or on Google Maps, which is another great source for leads. Then yes, go ahead and let's do the outreach and see what we're gonna get. However, there's also the vice versa kind of thing. So yesterday, I spoke to this business called VerifX.ai. And this particular founder and the CEO, he's selling a protection software from deepfakes and impersonation. And it's a very, 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 very specific problem that he's solving. And 99% of people have not even potentially have seen a deepfake or had a negative consequence from deepfakes or impersonation. So that means if you are reaching out to a lot of influencers or people with status or even myself, a lot of people will not need such a software. There's just not a need for it. It's like selling sort of an antivirus software to Mac users. I have not, so since I started to use a Mac over 10 years ago, I have not even thought about installing an antivirus software on a Mac, right? So this is just to give an example of like when it doesn't make sense to reach out to people, and of course your outreach will fail. And that's exactly what's happening in that particular case with the founder, because he's not able to identify the right people from the get-go. So naturally, you have to kind of drill down a bit and kind of figure out, okay, who are the people who I could sell this to potentially, right? So you kind of have to think this through. And it's not necessarily maybe the easy way to go into lead database, get some leads, and off we go. We would reach out to them. So you'd actually need to do scraping, or you use something like Clay, like a sophisticated tool where you can extract data based on XYZ, and then yes, you would get a list. But so there's definitely a bit of a process, because one of the worst things that you can do when it comes to outreach is essentially sending emails to the wrong people, right? Because what will happen is people will report you for spam. They'll blacklist you, block you, whatever. They'll do a lot of nasty stuff towards your domain, and that will go nowhere, right? So sending emails or sending LinkedIn messages up people, wrong people, is not really good for your business. You're just wasting resources, right? So be smart about people that you're reaching out. There has to be relatively good likelihood for people to respond back. Essentially, if I'm selling a sales software, and naturally, I want to be selling that to sales leaders, right? So not selling that to, I don't know, accountants as an example, right? So this is just another example, right? So you have to be able to figure out the audience that is receptive naturally towards the problem that you're solving. And then, yeah, so if you are identifying, you want to identify that 1% of people, right? Ideally, that are gonna see success, from using your product, your service, etc. And that's typically how it is, right? So you reach out, let's say in the market, if you would do any form of outreach, let's say we're going to use email as an example. Typically, only 1 to 5% of people will actually respond back to you on LinkedIn, because there's an issue with spam, and people don't typically automate LinkedIn. You would actually see 10 to 30% reply rate. But even within the replies you're going to get back, typically what good looks like is when 2 out of 10 people respond back to you. So let's say we're going to take email as an example. Let's say we have a 5% reply rate. If 20% of people out of 2 out of 10 respond back, right? That's 1% reply rate, positive reply rate. You're doing a good job if you're getting that. And that's how stats generally look like. You're trying to find, the 1% of people that may need your stuff. And then the other dilemma, sort of the other reason sort of why you're sort of reaching out to people, you want to be doing that at a relatively frequent basis. Like I typically say, reach out to your potential customers like once a quarter. Like this is how we typically think about it. So because one of the problems that you have in generally sales or outreach is that only, I would say, 3 to 5% of the users are in market for what is it that you're selling. And figuring out who is in market for your product is not something that is easy to do. Sometimes impossible, because that data is internal within the company. And unless you're going to reach out to them, you never will be, you're never going to be able to get them, on a call and potentially close them into a deal. So yeah, so this is just kind of, a bit kind of top level. But what I want to do right now is dive into a little framework that I have prepared for you to kind of help you to think about outreach in a more sort of structured way. And there are these sort of what I would going to describe sort of 5 pillars or 5 things, you kind of have to think back of your minds. And one is what's called the infrastructure pillar. So we're going to dive into each of these parts, but the infrastructure pillar means really is that if you're doing any form of outreach where you don't have an opt-in essentially from your users, then that's cold email essentially, right? So that is cold outreach, which is exactly what we're discussing, right? And doing any form of cold outreach from a primary business domain is a death sentence to your primary business domain. Essentially, you will be receiving spam reports. Doesn't matter how good your emails are, doesn't matter how good your targeting is. Inevitably, you will receive spam reports because that's what people do today. Some people will try and blacklist your domain. Essentially, you are trying to you will degrade the email reputation of your domain. So what you want to do is you want to set up what's called an infrastructure. So we're going to dive into that. Copy is very important, right? What goes into into an email copy versus LinkedIn copy? These are two different things. Naturally, email is email, so I think we're all familiar with. But what I typically see on LinkedIn when I get on any form of outreach message on LinkedIn, it looks like an email. It's super long, like an email. It even has a signature. That's not what you do on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a bit like WhatsApp, bits like sending an iMessage, right? It has to be short and snappy and to the point. Typically, I always say lead with a question on LinkedIn, and that's just the best thing you can do. So I would reach out to Lisa and I would say, "Hey, Lisa, are you doing any form of outreach right now?" And she'll say no. And so so this will go into a conversation, right? So we would start a conversation. We'll talk about outreach. Maybe outreach is totally not relevant for her, which is totally fine. But this is not something where you're gonna sort of send her sort of a long ass email in LinkedIn, and then you'd expect quite a good response. So you typically ask, hey, are you doing this? Is this a problem to you, etc. You want to start a conversation, which is just a kind of best practice of what typically happens in sales. Next thing is the data, right? So we talked about, send those copies, those emails, those LinkedIn messages to the right people. If you're going to send to the wrong people, that will harm your infrastructure. It will destroy that. So sending stuff to the wrong people has actually a negative impact on your whole business. So data is very important on who are
Yeah.
you targeting, how you targeting.
The whole email reputation thing is something that we've been on top of for quite a while. And the way that the
Mhm.
inbox owners behave, so that's AOL, Gmail, Hotmail,
Mhm.
Microsoft, um, and Apple, is that if you consistently email people who do not engage with your emails,
Yeah.
um, that they will see you as a spammer. Behave like a spammer, get treated like a spammer. So whether it's emailing people that don't engage with you, whether it's people clicking the unsubscribe link, and having the wrong clickbait copy kind of thing going into your emails, and any number of things. And if you want a guide that I've got called The Science of Getting in the Inbox, I'm happy to share that with you. I'll put it in the follow up. But what it does is it will impact all of the delivery of all of your emails going via that mailbox provider. So if Yahoo don't like you, they're not going to deliver any of your emails to their
Mhm.
inboxes. The same with Gmail, the same with Microsoft, and they're constantly changing the parameters as well. So email reputation is absolutely paramount. Getting out of Google jail is not fun, and it's lengthy and very boring. Back over to you, Frank.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, so just kind of to be double down on this a bit, is that what we're going to be discussing, this is specifically for cold outreach. Now, we're not going to, when we talk about deliverability, we're not going to talk it from a maybe lens of inbound. Inbound is a bit different when it comes to deliverability. But like a lot of principles are still in place. Like, for example, getting some sort of response back from the other party is very good for your infrastructure, whatever infrastructure that you're using. Look, you can be even a little naughty and you can say at the bottom, like, PS, let me know if you got this email, like even that helps, any form of anything that comes back from the user, even like swearing, is good for your infrastructure, so trying to be creative. What is it that you can get from the other party to essentially keep your infrastructure healthy, whatever the infrastructure you have in place, both on outbound and inbound? Essentially, getting these responses is how the email service providers look at your infrastructure being a good one. You're a good sender, essentially, when they're getting some pings back, essentially, from the other party. So, like, this is super important. Cool. Then the next one is orchestration. How you actually, so imagine you have the great infrastructure in place. You bought some good stuff. You crafted some really cool copies. You have the right people, but the way you orchestrate can again make or break when it comes to your performance overall and what it may kill. So on one hand, right, if you're looking to what we call penetrate accounts, you go after specific businesses and actually close deals with them. You want to not just reach out to one person, but you want to reach out to a few people in the company. Typically, these are 2-3 stakeholders at a company. So I'm not gonna just reach out to Lisa. I'm gonna reach out to Angeli as well. I got to reach out to somebody else as well in the company, right? To try to get a response from them about the particular pain point I'm solving for these companies, for the company, right? So multi-threading is super important. It has been proven through a lot of data and billions of emails that multi-threading massively improves the conversion rate. And kind of it's common sense, right? If you're going to reach out to multiple people at the company, one of the three people respond back, and that then leads, down the funnel to the opportunity, and that's actually potentially closing a deal. The other thing that massively improves the outreach results is the multi-channel piece. So these days, there's three channels, the typical channels. So this is the email and LinkedIn that we're covering right now. One of the things that we're not covering is definitely cold calling. Now, one of the things, just to kind of be very clear, because a lot of people keep asking me all the time, you can't use AI agents for cold calling. You can only use AI agents for inbound calling. When you have consent, that is totally legal. You can do that. There's a bunch of different tools, 11 Labs, Retail, HighLevel. There's a bunch of different tools that can do good stuff for you on the inbound front. On the outbound front, you cannot do calling. It is illegal. And I still get actually agentic callings myself. Even today, I got a call from an AI agent without an opt-in. And so you can go ahead, still, and make some money out of this, just to let you know, guys, if you want to go down that path. But like orchestrating, pacing, what's the pacing? Are we multi-threading? Are we doing multi-channel? All these things have a huge positive and negative impact on how you set this all up. And then the final thing, because it mainly touches a lot of LinkedIn, but it also touches on email. So a lot of the people come to me and say, Frank, can we do some outreach and reach out to a bunch of people, etc., and see what's going to happen? And then I look at the LinkedIn profile, look at the LinkedIn activity on the social feed, I look at their website, and it's very, very sad what you typically see on these websites or on the LinkedIn profiles. And because you need to have that authority, that credibility, you want to be warming up your audience prior to you reaching out to them, right? So keep nonstop, feeding the audience. So if you're wondering what does that look like, so today, for example, I'll launch a really cool video on LinkedIn. And that's an example thing that I do. And I typically post at least Monday to Friday, sometimes also weekends. And I keep the audience always warm. I keep always connected with my ideal customers on LinkedIn and always trying to talk about the stuff, that I do as a founder or the problems that I'm trying to solve. And then when I actually hit them up with an email LinkedIn message, it's actually not a cold outreach anymore, right? You can think of it like warm outreach. So this is also called inbound led outbound. Essentially, we are warming up the audience. We're doing different bits. We're essentially advertising, we're marketing, and then we're hitting them with an email that doesn't feel that cold, right? Or with a LinkedIn message that doesn't feel that cold. So these are the 5 key things. And typically, when I speak to any business, that there is typically some sort of failure, and if you're failing even in one of these areas, that's it. The whole, it's what Lisa said. Your whole Lego stack, everything is crumbling and nothing's working because one of the areas you're not doing a really good job, and so as a result, your outreach is just really weak. So yeah, would you agree with that, Lisa?
Yeah,
Anything you?
I definitely agree with that. It's the tying of everything together, of thinking about not just getting something out to someone, but actually doing it with intention, doing it with thought. I don't know how many times, as I said before, that people have, they've sent me a connection request, I've accepted it, and 3.4 seconds later, they're pitching me. And I'm like, hang on, wait a minute, I don't even know who you are. Like, who are you? Why are you trying to sell to me? I had one guy, when I looked at my history, literally in the last 24 hours, the last time there was a message between us, which was me to him asking him for more information, was 2018, and he hadn't replied to it. And meanwhile, he's now inviting me to something today, and it's like it actually creates bad feeling in me. It actually puts me off wanting
Mm,
to do work because obviously I love automation. Um, but yet I don't want to feel like I'm being automated. I want to feel special. I need it to feel
mm,
personal. So warming people up and the like, know, and trust is so, so important in my opinion.
mm. Yeah, I totally agree. Alrighty, let's then cover all these bits. So I'm gonna go through with a much faster pace here. So, like I mentioned, so you cannot send emails from your primary business domain, right? So you need to set up what's called secondaries. They're called parallel domains, burner domains. It's exactly the same thing. Where let's say if we have a domain called Salesforge.ai, you do not send emails from Salesforge.ai because we're going to be getting spam reports, right? It has a negative impact on our domain. So we want to be setting up these secondaries like Team Salesforge.ai, Get Salesforge.ai, and so on and so forth. So this is where there's a difference with inbound. On the inbound front, if you have a huge email volumes, you're setting up actual truly subdomains. So for example, notifications.salesforge.ai, right, as an example, or anything, mail.salesforge.ai. So this is how it's different. So on the outbound front, when you're doing any form of cold email outreach, you need to set up truly top-level domains where you have a prefix or postfix, so you have some sort of a name there, and that's it. So now, because it's getting very, very tough today in the world of email deliverability, and Google and Microsoft are very smart when it comes to cold emails, they really are going after the bad emails in the space. So cold email or any form of sort of outreach is unfortunately also somehow, affected by the spam filters. But what Google really is going after are the phishing emails, the bad, the ransomware, essentially. All these emails that are in circulation is what Google is aggressively attacking today. And naturally, everything that I have built out around that, it will also impact any form of cold emails today, because some of the things that these guys do, that send out ransomware to different organizations, mimic some of the practices on cold email, right? So this is why the cold emails and delivering cold emails today, if you're a legit business, it will impact you. But yeah, so you want to set up these secondary domains, and you want to stick to typically .com domains if you're sending out emails globally. However, if you're only sending out emails in the UK, then I would recommend to actually buy .co.uk domains. Or if you're doing that in Germany, .de, and so on and so forth, right? So geo-specific top-level domains are totally fine to be used, and actually are cheaper than .com domains typically, which is why I would recommend buying geo-specific top-level domains. The other thing that people typically forget is configuring the boring stuff, what's called SPF, DKIM, DMARC, the DNS settings of your domains. I still speak to a lot of businesses where I check out their domain in a tool called mxtoolbox.com. It's a free tool. You go on there. You can check essentially if everything has been set up correctly. And if something is in red, then that means it hasn't been set up correctly. And that's typically the DMARC, essentially. So DMARC has to be also set today. So anybody of you can go to Google quickly, mxtoolbox.com, check your domain and check if the DNS, everything's green. If not, there's a bunch of, documentation on the internet on how to fix quickly DMARC. It literally should take you, 5-10 minutes to fix it, and that will improve your deliverability.
It's like passport control for emails. It's where the mailbox providers know that you're not spoofing somebody else's email address, that you have permission to send from that email address, and it's set up in your DNS records, which is where you would have purchased the domain.
So now we covered the domains. Now, naturally, what we're attaching to a domain is a mailbox. And typically these days, you attach literally only 2 or 3 email accounts. And just to give you an idea, I have like 400 email accounts, just one guy, and that's me. So that means it really depends on your total addressable market, right? So how many email accounts you need. Typically, a normal business would need anywhere between 10 to 30 email accounts, just to give you an idea. So each email account typically sends like 20 to 30 cold emails. So it's very low volumes, but like the deliverability itself is tracked on the domain level. So what you want to think about is how many emails in total does the domain actually send out? And it's about 100. And you would typically say, okay, it's about 60 emails across, let's say, 2 mailboxes that are actually cold, truly, cold emails that are going out with prospecting, etc. And then 40 emails are warm. So the warm emails, if somebody's not familiar with what is warm up, you need to essentially, when you buy these brand new domains, you need to warm up these domains, because when you buy brand new domains, these domains have no reputation. So Google, Microsoft, they have never seen them in the email ecosystem. And back in the very old days, like over 10 years ago, people used to send emails to each other. They used to subscribe to newsletters essentially to build up that reputation manually. And today we have a lot of different automations, and these automations just called a warm-up, it's a warm-up. And so you're typically being put into a warm-up pool with other senders and also legit businesses, and you're circulating emails back and forth to build up that sort of reputation. It's something you want to do for at least 2 weeks, and sometimes even a whole month if you are trying to send emails, let's say, aggressively to Microsoft 365, or you are going after enterprise companies, or you just have very highly restrictive email security policies in place by the receiving party. In that case, I recommend to warm up for at least a month. But essentially, email is going to be going back and forth, and that process never stops. So you switch it on, and it's always on. So you never think about actually turning it off. It's something I also recommend to do for your primary business domain, because sometimes even the primary business domain, the emails land in spam, and it has happened time to time. So for example, our primary business domain is currently being warmed up with the other senders, so with the other secondary domains. The other thing that I also recommend is to use what's called reputable warm-up solutions. So there's a bunch of different warm-up solutions that are built in different ways. But what you'll see in some warm-up solutions is that you're warming up with what's called sensitive senders. These are, domains that you don't want to be warming up with, essentially. Think of it this way. So there's a lot of sensitive senders out there. Even, in spaces like crypto. Crypto is also classified as sensitive niche to be in, and warming up with crypto, for example, domains is not something that's recommended. So you want to be essentially in a warm-up pool where you have what's called non-sensitive domains in it, and you're warming up with just normal non-sensitive sort of businesses back and forth to build up the reputation. The other thing that you want to do is you set up these domains, set up these mailboxes, start sending a few emails. You want to do what's called frequent inbox placement testing or monitoring. Essentially, it's sending email to a bunch of Google accounts, bunch of Microsoft accounts, and see if you're landing in spam or not. And this is something that you want to do sort of periodically, once a month, typically, just to see what's happening with your reputation. And if everything is okay, you just continue, as you were. If not, you start checking what's potentially broken, right? So yeah, that's it on the infrastructure front. If we move now to the next pillar, the copy pillar. So like I mentioned, if you so something I mentioned, like sending really good emails or good LinkedIn messages, it's a bit of an art, less of maybe of a science. There's definitely some of the best practices, we're gonna discuss right now. But naturally, if you're gonna send like a really bad email or LinkedIn message, it's gonna be off-putting for the other party, even though it's relevant, and you don't want to really respond back because you didn't really like the content that's that's in the email. Um, Now, what we're predicting as a business and where the world is headed with all the things with spam filters and everything that's happening in the world, also on the AI front, we believe that all emails in the future will be AI-based or programmatic, what we call. Everything will become programmatic because why use a template if you can compute a programmatic email which is uniquely designed for you for as in that particular step of the funnel, right, where you are with a particular business. The reason why this is also a bit important, to kind of think about, let's change the email as programmatically as we can, is because Google today, for example, is very smart. It uses, for example, Gemini to associate spam reports with the actual copy. So imagine you start sending emails, and a lot of people are reporting your emails as spam, not because of let's say because of the copy, right? So you didn't write a really good copy, but you keep circulating that copy around, hundreds of people, then thousands of people, etc. But if you're getting systematically a lot of spam reports, Gemini learns from that, and then it will penalize you. And from a standpoint that it builds a pattern, right? So it looks at the spam reports, looks at the copy, and then it sees that the copy keeps on going out to the new people. You start landing in spam, not because of your domain, not because of your IP address, but purely because of the copy. And you may have seen, let's say in Google in particular, that it says there's like a little banner at the top says, I think these messages or these emails in the past have been reported as spam or something. So as a result, Google starts sending, you to spam. If you're going to change up the copy, suddenly you are in the primary, So it is definitely a copy thing. So try and avoid templates at all costs. Try to essentially rotate the content, use AI, etc. Try to get into that mindset because it will get tougher and tougher the more static content you're going to use. So if you're looking to personalize something, you want to personalize not on what's called a company level, but on the contact level or on the lead level, right? So I'm not trying to personalize something, for Lisa's business, but I'm trying to personalize, let's say my email or my message to Lisa. So what is her title? What is she potentially worried about? What are the pain points that she potentially is exhibiting based on publicly available data? Maybe she said something on a webinar. Maybe she said something on LinkedIn. Maybe it says something on the website that Lisa is talking about, that she has a particular pain point. Try to latch on these pains. And then if your product can solve one of the pains that Lisa has, then do send the relevant email to her, right? So that's the third point. Lead with the pain, not with the gain. I had a good friend of mine from Australia. He said, no pain, no gain, no demo train. That's exactly what it is, right?
I love that. No pain, no gain, no demo train. It's a lot though, isn't it? This is a lot to kind of remember all the time to put it. We're going to send out the recording, guys, so you can go through this again with Frank.
Yes, yes, yes. There's a lot in here. But I can ask just Lisa, hey Lisa, do you have this particular pain? And if Lisa says no, then there's no point to talk about my product. So sometimes in the first email or message, you can simply just ask her a question whether she has that particular pain. There's no need to pitch what you actually have built if she doesn't have that pain. She has nothing to gain from you, right? So you may ask her for referrals, so something that Lisa has mentioned, in her part, like proactively asking for referrals is something that folks you guys are very good at. So Lisa may not have the pain, but you can ask Lisa, oh, Lisa, no worries at all. Do you know somebody that may have that particular pain point, that I'm solving right now? Lisa will be like, oh, yeah, I know Frank maybe. Frank maybe will have that pain, and Lisa will forward that email, right? So think about that from a psychology standpoint, people think about, I always typically say, I got 99 problems, but pipeline ain't one. So I got a lot of problems as a business owner. I would wish that people would reach out to me about the problems that I currently have. And I talk about my problems publicly, but people keep reaching out to me about the problems that I don't have. Frank, do you need more pipeline? No, I don't need more pipeline. Pipeline is not a problem. Okay, so the other thing that you need to think about is what's called avoid spamming language. So you can use a lot of spam checkers on the internet. Just search for spam checker, and you will see a lot of tools on the planet. So you mentioning these sort of words like free or even like sensitive words like loans, etc. Like if you're gonna put that into your email copy, there's a good chance you're landing in spam. Or you're going to be quarantined. Essentially, you're not going to deliver the email because of there's one word that's triggering that in the email, so nothing goes through. It's definitely a thing. So yeah, the other thing that you want to do is a thing called spin tags. So I already mentioned. So you want to forget about static content in email, which means templates essentially, right? You're sending template to the same person. You're just changing the first name. You want to be doing a thing called spin tags. I'm going to show you in the next slide, or using AI to actually compute an email. The other thing I highly recommend, so try to think not like an automation software, and I know it's hard, but try to think what would a human do. A human would, for example, write a subject line, lowercase, and it's a pattern trap because most of the emails that are automated, it's not like so you can like you want to interrupt the pattern because people get a lot of emails today, right? The inbox is bombed.
Oh, it's
I get
so
like
easy to spot the AI one, right? It's just like
yeah,
literally, we become so used to it so quickly, whether it's the long dashes or the formatting of the text or
even emojis. AI used
emojis.
to use a lot of emojis back in the days, now less. But like you would even associate emojis back in the days with AI. But those that have disappeared. So I even remember back in the days when we used like GPT-3. GPT-3 loved to use emojis everywhere. It was just a thing back in the days. But essentially try and do everything that automation software wouldn't do typically. So for example, a lot of AI stuff or a lot of kind of automation softwares, they like to have very long copies. Whereas, important people write very short, snappy copies, right? CEOs, if I'm addressing another person, I'm going to write short, snappy, copy.
You doesn't even put in Dear Lisa. It's just like a one-liner sentence with maybe punctuation if you're lucky.
Lisa, comma, can we do a webinar question mark?
Or it just goes in the subject line and there's nothing in the copy at all.
Yes. So I know it's tough for a lot of people, especially, reaching out to other people like strangers out there, right? But like less is more, essentially. And the other thing that AI softwares don't do is PS lines. Like it's definitely underutilized, but a PS line can give you another opportunity to say something or maybe provide something like a checklist for free, something of value that people will appreciate, but has nothing to do with the main body of the email. Something that's definitely underutilized, and AI softwares or any softwares or automation softwares typically do not do this. Even we don't do this in Salesforge. We do not automate PS line. It's something that a human has to inject. So yeah. Now, don't do bumps and follow-ups. So a lot of people like, any thoughts, Lisa, or just like, Lisa, quick bump here. Did you check my email? Essentially, the best practice in sales, if you are looking to do a follow-up email, so second, first follow-up and second follow, that means 3 emails in total that you're sending. So do not send, by the way, more than 3 emails. Again, I cover this in a bit. But like, if you are sending a follow-up email, give Lisa more reasons to respond back to you, right? So the first initial email was the body was about this. She did not respond, probably not of interest, or she's very busy, or she's in Norway, right? But when you are sending a follow-up email, give her a second reason, or another reason to respond back. If you do not have another reason to respond back, try and make it funny, right? Which is the next piece. Mix it up with a GIF or a meme, something funny, or a little video in the follow-up email. So the reason why you do a follow-up video, why you do a video in the follow-up is because you don't want to have HTML in the first email, because HTML also harms email deliverability when it comes from an outbound standpoint. So you want to send what's called plain text copy.
No fancy stuff, no massively formatted logos and insertions and formatting. It will spot all of the formatting, and whilst it looks beautiful, it's unlikely to be seen because it will end up in the junk folder. So like plain text, conversational emails, and high value. Always be, you cannot, don't be tight with your value. Be abundant, 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 because if they're going to become a client, they're going to become a client. But just keep giving value as much as you possibly can, because people will always remember you for how you made them feel when you were being abundant with your value.
Yeah, one of the frequent mistakes I see people typically do is the fact that they put, let's say, bolding they bold the email, and like nobody does that typically. So that you're definitely using automation. So you automated this email, right? So don't do these things. And then yeah, if you are in markets like Europe, Asia Pacific, whatever, localization. So the fact that you're sending the email in French, German, etc., can easily 2x the reply rate. Because a lot of the emails out there that go out and they're in English, they're being perceived as this is automation, this is unsolicited emails, this is not the emails I want. So when French people, Germans, whatever, the Spanish receive an email and it's not in the native mother tongue, the probability of response is massively lower. So this applies in non-English speaking markets. So yeah. Well, just kind of conscious of time, here's an example of the spin tax copy. Top left, you can see essentially where I'm spin taxing. I'm saying things like LMK, let me know, please let me know, right? So, or if yes, should be interested, if you're keen, here's the link, right? So, and then the AI-based email where you can see again, lowercase, this is AI essentially wrote this whole email bottom right. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to kill the templates, right? So static content, right? Always think about no static content in my email. It's really, really bad. All right. If you want to kind of learn very much in depth, feel free to go to the Salesforce YouTube channel, click on the live section, and there's a bunch of webinars around how to write really good copies. We can't cover everything, right? So it's going to be too much, but there's a lot of kind of ideas that I put out there, especially the one at the bottom, which says how to write cold emails that don't suck. There's a lot of tips in there. All right, next one is how to send, the best message. So yeah, even the best message won't resonate if you are sending that to the wrong audience, right? So you need to define your ideal customer profile, right? So these are people that pay you a lot of money and stick around with you and buy more from you, right? You want to focus on them as much as you can, right? And only then go towards a broader ICP, let's call it tier 2 ICP, tier 3 ICP. But if you have plenty of tier 1 ICPs, essentially people that can pay you a lot of money and can expand, and there's good retention, etc., that's who you want to go after. Start with anything but a database of leads. All right. So we have a database, other companies have a database, but this is one of the worst things you can do. Just going into something like a poll or somewhere else, and you just pull a lot of leads and you reach out to them because there's no sort of assumption, no signals, nothing. So you want to figure out first the signals, whether there's a hiring signal, funding signal, etc. You want to figure out lookalikes. Let's say you close a deal or you have a close one in HighLevel or whatever in HubSpot, Salesforce. You close it, you're winning deals, right? You want to find similar companies to this company that just where you just made a six-figure deal. You want to find more of those. The other thing is like if you have a lot of competitors in your space and you have a better, cheaper, faster, whatever that is, go after your competitor account. So there's a way to do that in LeadSforge in our product. And then sometimes you are selling, for example, a Shopify app. So you only want to be sending to Shopify stores, so you want to check the tech stack of the website, right? So there's, for example, a company called Store Leads, they're the number one sort of, e-com database, right? So yeah, based on your ideal customer profile, you want to do the right things. But like what I'm trying to say is try to stay away just pulling from a database just something and let's just reach out because it will have the worst performance. it will still can perform, but there's other lists or other audiences that will outperform a generic audience. You want to do sort of a qualification as well, typically on lists, preferably sort of agentic or some sort of web crawler asking questions. Is this a B2B company? Do they do product-led growth or sales-led growth? So to help you qualify and to help you narrow down, particularly important if the list size is like too big, like it's too wide, we will need to narrow down. So you need to figure out how to narrow that down. And there's multiple ways to do that. And then, like I mentioned, you want to have 2-3 contacts per account that you're per business, right? So we're reaching out to these businesses. 2-3 people is who we want to be targeting per account if you want to maximize the conversion rate. Either you're reaching out to these people what's called sequentially or in parallel. Now, we have a product as well with about 500 million leads, right? So in our case, for example, we have 3 options and the signals are coming actually later this month, but you can search just literally across 500 million leads, find lookalikes, or go after your, let's say, competitive followers. So going to skip this, but let's say if Salesforge is your competitor, right? So you would enter just Salesforge.ai, you can see I have 9,000 followers. If you want to extract all the followers, then off you go. And the reason why this list, let's say, will be better than a typical database list is because the followers of your competitors are typically problem solution aware, right? So that is the reason. And so many of them are customers, integration partners, etc. That's the reason why you want to be reaching out. So let's say in our case, one of the things that we would do, we would extract, let's say, high-level followers on LinkedIn. And the reason why I would do that is because if we have just recently launched an integration with HighLevel, right, and I want to acquire a lot of customers that use HighLevel, then that's an example, another example why you would extract company followers off LinkedIn. Right. You will never crush it unless you have solid orchestration. So something I'm going to mention is 2-3 emails maximum in a sequence. That's something you do once a quarter. This is to avoid the spam reports. You need to make sure you have correct pacing between the sequence steps. Typically, 1 email for every 3 to 7 days. So that's the interval really. Kill the open tracking. Open tracking is HTML. It does harm deliverability. In cold email, in particular, you want to kill open tracking. On inbound, it's totally fine. Measure bounce rates, reply rates, and opt-out rates. This is the measurement that you should have when it comes to cold emailing. Email validates every single email every time you execute because you need to make sure your bounce rates are below 2%. Best-in-class companies have less than 1% bounce rate. If your bounce rates are very high consistently, Google, Microsoft can see that, and they associate high bounce rates to the fact that you're automating stuff. Kill HTML, send this plain text every single time. So the first email cannot have HTML. Highly recommend that you kill it, and there are plenty of softwares today that kill HTML. Do multivariate testing to understand what copy works, because a lot of people start sending emails, reaching out, but they don't do any testing. Like, because you want to have at least sort of maybe 3 to 5 sort of angles on or pain points that your product may address, but you don't know which of the pain point will resonate best with your audience. So you want to test it out, right? So I highly recommend that you do multivariate testing, and you need to have at least 1K leads in each variant if you want to reach any form of statistical significance. Analyze, what's called email service provider to email service provider performance. You will see different differences. So, for example, today, Microsoft, if you have Microsoft email accounts, they don't perform very well. But Google Workspace accounts do perform very well. So even things like that, which email service provider do you use, makes a huge impact. And you want to be analyzing the performance there. Bonus. So yeah, blend with LinkedIn calls results up to 6x higher reply rate from your audience if you're blending in the other channels. And then strong web presence and social also naturally improves your reply rates. And then my final bit is around warming up your audience, right? So if you're wondering what means warming up your audience, go to my LinkedIn profile and you can see I'm warming up my audience all the time. So, but what matters is generally when people check you out on LinkedIn is when you are accessing the LinkedIn profile, essentially what you're seeing above the fold, when you're just entering the LinkedIn profile is what matters the most. Your location, your headline, everything, your banner, all of that matters 80%. The rest of the stuff that's at the bottom matters very little. So I would not optimize that. So optimize every little thing you can and think of it as an extension of your website. It's like a landing page, right? So have a proper banner, professional picture, big smile, I always say, like this beautiful American smile that you want to, have on as your headshot. Super important because, it's a psychology, right? So if you have a big, beautiful smile, people are more likely to accept your connection request, DM you, etc. have a good headline. Location matters a lot. Where you are based in the world. People have, negative biases towards particular locations in the world. Not going to dive too much into that, but you want to be associated to some sort of tier one country or location, Amsterdam, London, whatever you name it, like New York, etc., and so on and so forth. Have a custom link. So that custom link has to lead somewhere on the section of your site or even a newsletter to convert the users, right? So because think about converting the users from your LinkedIn profile. What is the conversion that you're looking for? And that's what should be in the custom link. And then bonus emoji for a better brand recall. So you can see I have a bacon emoji, and that stems from bringing home the bacon, right? So people may forget my name, what is my name, or the company I work at, but they will remember Mr. Bacon, the guy with the bacon emoji, helping you bringing home the bacon, right? So good. That's quite a good thing. And the last thing is definitely make sure if you have a tricky name or a long name, shorten it. It will help you as well. And that's it.
Thanks, Frank. And I can't believe how fast you talk. I think you talk faster than me. And I think the multi-channel approach is important. So look, I can't let you guys go without offering you something. Frank's software, Salesforge, with all of the other Forge bits of software, is available on this page, which I'm sharing with you now. So you can see here, you can sign up with a free trial for Salesforge here. And I've also pre-built a system for you to be able to capture and segment your emails, being able to get people on a calendar call with you with a sales pipeline, all the follow-up, sending invoices to get paid, e-sign, so that if you have got a welcome agreement or terms and conditions, and all of this has been pre-built and fully automated for you. Plus the fact I am able to offer you a 30-day rather than a 14-day free trial inside of HighLevel. So you can click on here and head over and get your free trial with Salesforge. And you can click on here and get your free trial preloaded with the system I just showed you with HighLevel. If technical is not your thing, you can have us build it with you, or indeed just build it for you and get you out the way. We've got a number of clients on the call here who we have done a lot of what we call concierge onboarding, where we could do a complete done for you service. So if you're looking to get these tools in to be able to have not just Frank's tools of being able to do the outreach, but actually be able to have a system so that you're saving time. You can automate a lot of this stuff, know where people are at in your system, so you're not scrambling to go, who should I be following up with? And for those of you that are interested in AI, that is possible, but we do need explicit consent so people know that their data is going to be going and being handled by AI, inbound or outbound. So we can guide you through all of it. So feel free to, you should have the link there. We've got questions. Please do slam questions into the Q&A or into the Google document. And we're happy to stay on for an extra few minutes. Apologies, we have gone a bit over time, even with Frank talking on 4x speed. And let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, Frank, for that. There's so much information in there. And it is important. I mean, it's trying to get in front of people with the right message and clarity and having the right ICP, ideal customer persona, is so important these days. I'm so boring, scattergunning people.
I mean, email and the whole world has changed massively the last 3 years, right? It's just tougher just to do the outreach for different reasons, whether Google wants to make more money through Google Ads or whatever the other reasons are. But if we have the new rules of the game, then naturally you need to adjust. But I can still tell you that people make millions of dollars, not just in pipeline, but actually revenue from doing outreach. So it definitely still works, and doesn't matter what scale or what do you sell, it still works. You just need to do it in the right way. Yes, you need to have the right system in place because there's other things that happen after the outreach, right? So we have a humongous system built out as well. And just to give everybody an idea, we do like over 500 meetings per month about our velocity. Now, about 100 meetings are coming from outbound, right? So using our own software, so Salesforge, on a monthly basis. And then the other 400 meetings actually are coming from inbound, right? So we do a lot of other stuff on SEO front and so on and so forth. And yeah, and that all comes from having the right system, just like Lisa explained. And you want to start somewhere, right? So if you're not very good at what I call system building, it's definitely a skill, right? So you want to build a system where there's a compound effect, right? And you're feeling, that is getting better and better and better, because naturally in the early days, it's not like I had 500 meetings on month one, right? So, it was 10 meetings the first month. And then, we scaled to more and more because you were building, better and bigger systems essentially with more scale behind it. If you do have the total addressable market for it, right? So in our case, we're quite fortunate to have millions of businesses that we could reach out. Hence, that's why we have quite a high velocity, a lot of people that we're talking to all the time. But in smaller markets, it doesn't matter, right? So if you have high ticket deal sizes, you just need to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, right? And you have a solid system where you're maximizing the conversion rate. So
Yeah, and
those
sometimes it's automatic, not always automated, and being able to use the Salesforge tools in conjunction with HighLevel so that
mm,
you're bang on top of everything, so that you
yeah.
know whether it's you've got to do an internal task or send a video, or it's been 3 days, I now need to reply to someone because they're high value and it does need to be personalized. Putting all
Mm,
this effort into outreach and getting people in the top of the funnel, you need to make sure that you've got the infrastructure that those people are being followed up in. They may not be ready to buy now, it might be 3 months. And if you haven't got them segmented and you don't know what was said previously, then it's a lot of effort that has gone to waste to acquire them in the first place.
mm. Yeah, that's truly it. Yeah. Yeah, if you
Brilliant.
got any questions on anybody wants to ask an additional question about outreach, etc., you can always find me on a good old LinkedIn. That's what's a typical place you can find me and ask any questions that has to do with cold emailing or LinkedIn. That's what we specialize in. Um, yeah, that's probably the best place to sort of
Yeah.
find me if
And
anybody.
inbound engines, yeah. So whether it's webinar, so this was an inbound, you guys opted
Mm,
in, and this was inbound. So if you do want additional systems built, whether it be things like a webinar or a VSL, or even things like automated Instagram responses, the beauty of HighLevel, I think it was Tanya you were messaging earlier, is that obviously it connects with everything. So whether it's inbound SMS, meta messaging, people opting in, WhatsApp, it can all have auto responses and capturing and people being placed correctly in the opportunity stages so that you know who you should be following up with next. Someone
mm,
saying, I don't think HighLevel can automate. Oh, no, there's no automated personal LinkedIn. However, Salesforge,
mm.
it can't automate on the comments. And Salesforge have taken a lot of time. Frank and his team taken a lot of time explaining to me how they are very careful. They have put in the guardrails to save us from ourselves, to make sure that when we are automating on LinkedIn, that we're doing it safely and that we don't trigger the algorithm to go, oh, something's up here.
Yeah,
So all of that's in place. But no, LinkedIn does not allow you to do automated comments. However,
yeah.
HighLevel does have a social posting so that you can do your posting scheduler across all platforms, whether it's LinkedIn
Mm.
or Facebook or TikTok.
Yeah, if somebody's wondering about, commenting like on posts for your like target accounts, there is a tool that does commenting like really well. Not associated, but like it's called goextrovert.com. Imagine you have, like 100 particular accounts or businesses you can penetrate, or maybe 1,000, and you're looking to follow your essentially ideal customer profiles. And yeah, one of the things that, as part of building up this sort of social selling muscle is commenting on, yes, on your prospects posts, caring about the posts, and it's something that you have a process also behind. I actually run a whole webinar on this literally last week, and so there's, again, it's on the Salesforce YouTube channel. You can have a look at it. But yeah, it's super important because it can double your reach. Because on LinkedIn, one of the ways you generate reach is really good posts, right? That resonates with the audience. But the second way is like when you see a really good post by your prospects, right? So whether they have a lot of following or not, that doesn't matter, right? As long as you're commenting on the right people's posts, and these are typically your either existing customers or net new customers that you're looking to target, make a good comment that. Like, just make sure you're not using something like ChatGPT. There's a lot of like AI comments on LinkedIn. People hate those, right? So make sure you don't do that. But like this tool sort of Go Extrovert does like a really good job at that. Of course, you could do it manually. So the way that I do it manually right now, without even a tool, I just click on the bell icon on LinkedIn on the people that I really wanna, that I think they're influencers, sort of, they have some following, right? And then, or they do really good posts, and these posts are typically trending. This is where you want to be in the first sort of 5-10 minutes. Yes, commenting and say something thoughtful, or maybe contradict even with the person, right? And try to stir up some drama. People love drama on LinkedIn. People love a few things on LinkedIn, like
They sit
edutainment.
back with their popcorn, don't they? To what I mean, going on your competitors,
Yes.
or is it's who, where are your folks hanging out? And if they are hanging out on your competitors, or on on other influencers, it's really good to be visible on those posts, in
Yeah.
those communities.
I
Yeah.
even comment on my competitors' post, if I'm really honest. So, like, so personally, that's our brand, right? So it's part of your branding. Whether you have the guts to comment on your competitors' post, but I have nothing to lose. I only have something to gain. So when you're in that position, why not, right? So as long as you're not trying to sort of promote yourself, but actually say something thoughtful, puts you, in a position of authority, right? Or a very good alternative or better alternative, than somebody else, out there, right? So engaging with your competitors, with your potential customers, with your current customers, is definitely of a benefit. So then again, when you're actually going to be reaching out, because you're warming up these, net new accounts that you're trying to go after, you're warming them up, and then after a week or two, etc., then you're gonna be sending a quick connection request, to Lisa and saying, "Hey, Lisa," and then if you would actually pitch slap her, I mean, she would already know you. So we will actually, that's when pitch slapping maybe makes sense because you have warmed up the relationship with Lisa, right, for quite some time. So yeah.
So yeah, so it's all about value really. It's about people seeing that you're not out for yourself, that you're out for them. You've got to make your marketing about them. You've got to give lots of lovely value whenever you can, and be the person known for giving that value. Because
Mhm.
if someone is then making a decision about going with them or going with you, they're going to go with you because you have been more valuable to them. So always value-led marketing, in my opinion. So, hopefully you guys have got the link. Yes, you got the link in the chat to go and get your Salesforge free trial, go and get your HighLevel free trial. Anyone that signs up for the HighLevel free trial will have the pre-loaded snapshot as I showed you, although we don't build snapshots, we build systems. And also you not only will get that, but there's also, you'll be brought into our community where we are live. Angeli, who's supporting me on this call right now, is in there making sure that you have a great journey with HighLevel, your automation and your LinkedIn outreach or any other inbound and marketing that you're doing, which requires the automation infrastructure. And we're going to be doing weekly office hours as well for anybody that wants to hop on and just get their sense checked, get their system sense checked. We're always here to help and to make sure that our business is basically keeping you guys in business. That's what we do.
Mhm.
So if there's no other parting questions, I don't know if I've missed anything in the can you get the snapshot if you already have HighLevel? Message me privately on that one, please, and we'll see what we can do. And yeah, edutainment, brilliant. I think we're done.
Yeah, you were excellent.
You were excellent. You were brilliant. Well done, Frank.
Well done, everybody. Thanks for all the questions, and yeah, we'll probably see you next time round if you want more of this. So yeah,
Yeah, look out for the follow-up. It'll be in your inbox, not your spam folder. Thanks, guys.
cheers, bye.